SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
When addiction takes control, getting help can change everything. Parkwood Behavioral Health System offers compassionate, evidence-based addiction treatment for adults right here in Mississippi. Take the first step today. Visit parkwoodbhs.com. Healing starts here. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this facility.
Roll pre-record on my count. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Roll A, fade up on A.
Southern Miss to the top. You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour.
All right, here we go. Super Talk Eagle Hour is on the air. Glad you're with us on a Tuesday afternoon as we broadcast from the Southern Bancorp studio here in Oak Grove. Our first segment every day is sponsored by our wonderful friends right down the street at Movie Star Restaurant, where they serve delicious Southern cooking 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2, Friday night 5 to 8, Sunday 11 to 2. Movie Star Restaurant, been doing it for 25 years, and the food is always delicious. Great show today. We've got a pretty big guest coming on. Before we get to that, we'll remind you it's going to be a great week on the Eagle Hour. Tomorrow, the new baseball coach and former great shortstop Dustin Dickerson joins the Eagle Hour. Thursday, we confirmed this morning, we'll have a extensive interview with head football coach Blake Anderson Thursday afternoon at 1:30 as he gets ready to open fall camp next Tuesday, I believe. And Friday, we're going to have Patrick McGee. He's going to give us our first preview of Saints training camp. And Kelly is going to talk to some of the soccer players, and we're going to get a look at the new era of soccer at Southern Miss. So we got a full week in front of us. But right now, Dima, I'm going to let you remind our listeners who our guest is today, because you're the man responsible for this.
Well, yeah, Phil Steele, obviously writer and publisher of the College Football Preview magazine, which comes out every season. I think he's on his 32nd edition. If you go to my office at home, well, I don't actually have an office anymore since my wife and I moved out of my since I moved in with my wife a couple of years ago. But in my previous office, in my home, I have all the way back to 2013 this magazine. So, and I still do. I just don't know exactly where all of them are. But yeah, so I've had the last 13 or 14 editions of this, and it's certainly a yearly read. And you know, one thing I like about it is that he gives the same amount of coverage, and I just flipped it open here to Oregon, that he does a team like Tulsa or Southern Miss. I mean, it's a full 2 pages where you have every position room breakdown, you have all the stats breakdown, all the returning production, and then at the front of the magazine, he does a lot of power polls, position polls, all these things, and so it's very extensive and you know, certainly the best publication of it. You can't start the college football season without reading through this and getting your bearings in mind heading into college football season.
But when he joins us in a little while, just a fair warning, don't expect Judy Garland's Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's going to be more like Judy Collins' Send in the Clowns as far as his prediction. He's not real high on Southern Miss this year. But again, that really shouldn't surprise anybody, considering one of the first places you start is how many players do you have coming back? And Southern Miss, 0 defensive starters, 1 offensive starter.
Yeah, and the one offensive starter is on the offensive line who played, I think, 6 games last year.
New coach, new staff,
yeah,
everything is new.
Yeah. So really, if
we well documented that.
Yeah, and if you're Blake Anderson, I get why you vote yourself number 1, you know, in the preseason coaches poll. But man, there's no pressure. I mean, there is internal pressure, but I think from a fan base, you got to keep this in perspective. There shouldn't be no pressure this year on the Eagles. On
a sidebar, before we get back to college football, Kelly's wearing a pink Ship Island shirt. Now, I know you've never been to Ship Island because you don't like sun and water. which is why I never understood why he went to Hawaii. But I hate to ask, but was it the Salvation Army? Was it the little thrift store down the street? Where exactly did you find that?
I don't know. I was just told that not even the homeless wanted this shirt.
Oh, well, now, okay. Well, it makes sense.
And it's a salmon-colored shirt, Bob.
I'm sorry, Kelly.
It's not pink and it's not orange. It's salmon.
Is it? How would you describe that, Damon?
I can think of a lot of ways to describe it that I won't say.
He just told me he described it as really, really large.
Really, really, really large.
Okay. I just wanted to know where you're not going to reveal where you got it, are you?
I actually got
Weren't
it.
you wearing that shirt yesterday?
Maybe.
And the day before yesterday.
I only do laundry once a month, whether I need it or not.
Yeah, and he bathes every Saturday.
Yeah.
There's no chance he does.
Whether I need it or not.
No. Have you ever really washed clothes?
I actually know how to do laundry.
Do you do laundry?
Yeah, of course I do. I don't have a woman spoiling me like you guys do. Honey, do this. Honey, do that.
You know my wife better than that. Honey, you know what that reply would be. Well, honey, you do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's your honey do list.
Yeah, here. You know where to stick it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to how'd we get sidetracked?
I don't know. That was crazy.
That was not good.
But this is a big score, Dima, getting Phil Steele on the show.
Yeah, and I think it's his second appearance on this show. He came on a couple years ago, I believe, and so really awesome to have him back on the program. And we'll obviously ask him about Southern Miss, but I want to hear his thoughts on the Sun Belt, and hear his thoughts on the top teams in the Sun Belt, also top teams in the country. I think all of our listeners would like to hear his kind of explaining about that.
And after this lead in, I'm sure hoping he calls.
Well, and if you start with the players returning, I get that. But then why does everybody seem to have James Madison number one when they have a lot of players?
You can ask them that.
They were the national playoffs last year.
Yeah, and they have more NIL money than everybody. So.
Yeah.
But
matters.
But it does. But still, they don't have hardly any players back. Now, one of the teams that's been flying under the radar, except for Bob Getty's radar, and I was glad to see it in prepping for the show, that Phil Steele has Marshall ranked a lot higher, Bob, than a lot of other teams. And you've said from the get-go, watch out for Marshall.
I just don't think you count Marshall out. I mean, I think Marshall's pretty competitive every year in football, and I just don't know why you would. Why in the Sun Belt, Marshall is not considered a contender in football. And when you look at the AAC, Dima, he's real high on Will Hall and the Tulane Green Wave.
Yeah, he had them second in the AAC. On James Madison, 3 offensive returning starters and 2 defensive returning starters. And then on Marshall, 7 offensive returning starters and 3 defensive starters.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
But he's still got James Madison higher than
and that
Marshall.
might be because Marshall goes to James Madison and to Old Dominion this year. So certainly if you look at that, you're kind of like, well, if they split those games, are they going to get the benefit of the doubt, whatever. But you mentioned the AAC. Southern Miss will obviously see Tulane end of September, but he's pretty high on Will Hall's first squad there as he got them second. He had Memphis 6th in the AAC, so that's also something of note for Southern Miss fans. And so, those are going to be interesting picks for sure. I mean, I'm really interested to watch Tulane and Memphis. Just to see, how good they are. They have pretty decent rosters and see, how good they do.
And he has, when it comes to the Sun Belt, Phil Steele has the top 2 teams in the conference, both in the East. He's got James Madison ranked number 1 and Old Dominion ranked 2.
Yes.
And interestingly to me, the team with the most returning experience, Troy, he's got kind of mired down in the middle of the pack. And that kind of surprised me. And that's one of the foremost questions that I want to ask him is why not the love for Troy? Normally we complain that Troy gets too much love. But based on the returning personnel and how they finished the season, I would think that Troy would have been ranked a lot higher in the Sun Belt, but again, kind of in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, he has actually Louisiana winning the West, so not Troy, which, that should be interesting. And then he's got, Coast. James Madison winning the East, and then Old Dominion second. So.
And that doesn't surprise me that Old Dominion. I think I voted Old Dominion second in the East, but I just think the love for James Madison and the lack of love for Troy has been the biggest surprise for me. But there will be a lot of things to unpack, and hopefully we'll get to keep him for more than 1 or 2 segments on the show. But fall camp starts next Tuesday at Southern Miss, and Blake Anderson kind of said we still don't really know what we have. Whether you talk about having to hit the ground running, that's what'll have to happen next Tuesday. But not just for him, but a lot of other coaches who find themselves in this same boat. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm really looking forward to getting out there and just seeing how different the team looks from what I saw in the spring. Report on Monday, first practice on Tuesday, and we'll have obviously a bunch of reporting on Tuesday. I think we'll be at Sully's next Tuesday, so I'll be fresh from fall camp, and then coming over and we can report on that.
And even though there is a quarterback competition going on as the official word, don't you think it stands to reason, though, that Ethan Hampton would go in with a slight edge, considering he came in from another school?
Certainly that's always been the preseason expectation that he would be the head coach, because why would you bring in a sixth-year player, quarterback. And why would you bring in a sixth-year player if he's not going to be the quarterback? But certainly, I think Blake Anderson said it, that all three of them, have equally competed within the job, and he's never had a quarterback battle that was between three players this late in the season. I personally don't know how good that is, and we'll see, and hopefully we'll get an answer next week.
All right, guys, we're very excited to have Phil Steele on the SuperTalk Eagle Hour. He is on the phone. He'll be joining us right on the other side of this very short break. SuperTalk Eagle Hour reminds you that home repair, home remodeling, and home construction is important, and MCS Home Center has everything you need for your next project, whether it be your home, lawn, or your garden. MCS is Hattiesburg's newest improvement home center for all of South Mississippi. Local folks eager to serve you. Check them out, 7329 Highway 98 West in Hattiesburg. Stay with us. Phil Steele next on the Eagle Hour.
Big news from Robinson Electric Supply in Laurel. We've moved. You'll now find us directly behind our old building, right by Sawmill Animal Hospital. We're still your trusted electrical distributor, carrying everything from conduit to tape. And don't forget our full line of Milwaukee tools. Whether you're a contractor or a DIY pro, stop by the new Robinson Electric Supply at 1222 West 6th Street and see what's lighting up Laurel. Robinson Electric Supply. New location, same trusted service.
The Eagle Hour. Southern Miss to the top.
They're good friends at Eagle Tire West. We're going to sponsor this segment of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour. They're on Highway 98 West here in Hattiesburg. They sell Goodyear and all other major brands of tires. They have full service work on your car or your truck. Best of all, they're family operated since 1985. Eagle Tire up on Hardy Street. Eagle Tire West out on Highway 98 West. Big Southern Miss supporters and, of course, supporters of our show. And we're grateful for that. Hey, we're also very grateful to have this gentleman's time. Phil Steele is the publisher and creator of College Football Preview Magazine, which is the go-to magazine when it comes to college football preseason work. It's a remarkable magazine when you look at it and think that this one man does all of this work himself. Mr. Steele, welcome to the Eagle Hour, sir. It's a really great privilege to have you on the show.
Hey, a real pleasure. And I got to tell you, Southern Miss made me pretty happy last year. I had them on my most improved list, and they went from 1-11 all the way up to contending for the Sun Belt title. So I was very happy with Southern Miss last year.
Well, yeah, we were too for one short year. Mr. Steele, before we get into college football, I want you to share with our listeners what you told me. When do you start working on your magazine every year, and repeat what you told us about who does all of the work?
Yeah, well, I do have a staff of 10 people that help me out with the magazine pages and the stats and double-checking everything. But I do write each of the 138 team previews myself, and I start the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So in November, I start to work on the magazine. As soon as some team seasons are complete, we have a source that sends us articles about each team every day. We compile them into one big pile, and I read through it again after the season is over, going through all the ebbs and flows of each position. At that point, I write about each position. I say, okay, what kind of shape were they heading into last year? What happened last year? What's going to happen this year? Now, the first two parts aren't going to change. The last part will change. The second right through, I do at the start of spring. I add in the portal players, the freshman players, the portal losses, update the third part of that. And then the third part's after talking to the head coaches. And this year, I got to talk to 133 of the 138 coaches. Calls generally take about an hour apiece. I send them over my sheet with all the players on the name. We go over every player on the roster, and they tell me about the players and then the position, and then I do my third right-through. But I tell you what, it's 7 long months of work put in this magazine every year.
Can you share with us how many copies you sell every year? Because it is the #1 magazine in the country for college football.
Yeah, it's the best-selling magazine at Barnes & Noble as well. So it's every year, regardless of not just football magazine, best-selling magazine at Barnes & Noble. So very pleased with that. Little under 100,000.
Wow. Well, it's a remarkable accomplishment, sir.
And if you think you're a college football guru, think again, because
He's
this guy is.
He's on the show right
Yes.
now. The GOAT of college football
absolutely.
gurus.
This guy should be on College Game Day or something, with all the stats he knows. All right, obviously this is a Southern Miss show, Mr. Steele, and we wanted to ask you about that. Outlook on the Golden Eagles not high, as far as most preseason people who are projecting this. You got a chance to talk to Blake Anderson, and he obviously understands the doubt around this team. What say you?
It was interesting. I watched the Sun Belt Media Days, and Coach Anderson picked himself first place.
Yeah.
But I think that was just to give the team a little bit of confidence. Now, last year I was way higher on Southern Miss than everybody else because they were coming off a 1-11 season. But Coach Huff had come in, basically brought Marshall with him. In fact, Southern Miss last year had more players from the Marshall title team, Sun Belt title team, on their roster than Marshall had left on their roster. He took everybody with him, including the quarterback Braylon Braxton. And had Braxton not got injured, I think Southern Miss would have won the Sun Belt last year. He got injured, missed a game, and then, of course, when he came back, he wasn't his mobile self. And all Southern Miss had to do was pick up another win down there to get to the title game. But this year, it's a different story. And I was joking with Coach Anderson. I'm like, Coach Huff took everything with him to Memphis. Did he leave anything? Did he leave a computer? Did he leave a phone? And he got a chuckle out of that. There's you look on offense, there are 0 returning starters from last year's squad. Defensively, they do return one of the top 21 tacklers from last year, so they got that going for them. But other than that, I think this is a team that you talk about. I do an article in the magazine every year, the stock market indicator. Teams reach peaks and valleys. Southern Miss is going to be a huge stock market team after going from 1-11 up to 7-6. I think this is going to be a tough year to scratch out a few wins.
Certainly, and that's what we think as well. When Southern Miss was bringing, and I don't know the discussions you had about the quarterback, they obviously bring back Liddy and John White, who was on the team last year. He didn't start, but then they also went and got Illinois transfer Ethan Hampton, and Anderson has told us here, that's a 1-2-3 punch, and he doesn't know who the quarterback's going to be. In your projected lineup, you had Hampton, and that might just be because of the, obviously 60-year guy. But just curious if you had a conversation about quarterback with Anderson.
Yes, I did. And, sometimes coaches will say, hey, you know what, here's my quarterback, just don't tell anybody. That
Right.
wasn't the case with this one. Coach Anderson said it is basically a 3-man race, and that each of the quarterbacks had their strengths. He felt that White was the smartest of the quarterbacks, one of the smartest quarterbacks he's coached. Liddy's got the quick release. And then, of course, Hampton's got the most experience. So I think they've got 3 good guys. And let's face it, if Liddy's thrown into the lineup again this year, he should fare even better because he now has that experience. I think they've got 3 decent candidates for the quarterback spot, and I do believe it'll be decided in August.
When you look at the Sun Belt, Phil, this is Kelly Sander, by the way. You look at projecting each team based on what's returning. Troy has a lot of people returning in the West, but you're not as high on Troy, not near as high on Troy as you are about Louisiana in the Western Division of the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah, and, part of that is that, last year, Troy was sort of fortunate a little bit. They were actually minus 87 yards per game in league play and ended up still getting to the title game and winning the West. Generally, I do one every year about the conference yards per game. Sometimes the breaks don't even out. But with Louisiana, what I like about them, and I'll share what my conversations with most group of 6 coaches is, the coaches will always say, hey, I like this guy for this reason, and I like this, and I like this. He won't be here next year. They know that once you develop a player, turn them into a star, they're going to be gone. So what we see with the group of 6 rosters is a large amount of turnovers, a large amount of transfers every single year. The thing I like about Louisiana, they're one of my homegrown teams. The majority of these players were recruited by Desormeaux and have been developed by Desormeaux each year. They really got better as Lunch Winfield took over at the starting quarterback spot last year, and they've got a veteran squad. They're on my experience chart. They're at number 3 in the country, and they're a homegrown team. So I think there's a lot of stuff to go on with Louisiana this year, and they are my pick to win the West.
What do you think? What sort of impact do you think Louisiana Tech makes on the league, sir?
They're going to be a contender. Now, I rate the Sun Belt a better conference than CUSA, so my initial thought was, you got a team moving up basically from CUSA to the Sun Belt. They're going to, struggle a little bit, but I like the fact they've got 2 quarterbacks back with Blake Baker and Trey Kukuk back. Both have had starting experience last year due to the injuries. Eli Fint, the top-notch tight end. They've got talent there, and they play really good defense at Louisiana Tech. Last year, the last 2 years, they've only given up about 3 touchdowns per game, 21 points per game. So they play good defense. They got veteran quarterbacks. I think they'll be in the mix in the West, but I picked them in 3rd.
And if you go over to the East, I know everybody loves James Madison. Even though James Madison has a new coach and a lot of new players, why do you think there's so much love for JMU coming into this year, considering the circumstance?
Yeah, they lost a lot. And, you go back to 2 years ago when Coach Chesney took over and Coach Signetti had taken half the team with him to Indiana. They were just 4-4 in the conference 2 years ago, although they were 9-4 overall. When I talked to Coach Napier this year, going over the squad with him, he liked the fact that, they retained 49 players off their playoff squad from last year, and all those players were inbred with the James Madison attitude. We're going to win, we're going to be top-notch, that type of thing. And he thought with the 53 new players that he brought in, adapted to that attitude pretty quickly. He liked the talent that he brought in. He's got decent NIL money to bring in, good resources. And, James Madison's tough to beat at home. They're 65-5 the last 10 years at home. They get a bunch of their toughest games. They get Troy at home. They get Marshall at home this year. So some of their toughest games they get at home. I think they're the one thing I really like about them this year is the running back core, because Coach Napier actually compared the running back core this year with Petway, Herman, and Cromwell to the running back cores he had at Louisiana. Remember, he used to have almost 3,000-yard rushers at Louisiana. This is a really good running back core, and they've got that James Madison attitude coming into the year.
Can you stick around a few more minutes with us?
Oh, absolutely. I'm having fun talking Sun Belt football with you guys.
Great. We've got Phil Steele with us, owner and publisher of College Football Preview, the #1 go-to magazine.
And just remember, Southern Miss is playing at JMU this year. Bad news for the Dukes.
We'll be right back.
Thanks a lot, guys.
You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour. The Eagle Hour. Southern Miss to the top.
All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation with Phil Steele here in a minute. Just a reminder, Thursday afternoon, Blake Anderson will be here on the Eagle Hour. Going to give us an extensive interview prior to the opening of fall camp, so that'll be Thursday afternoon. Dustin Dickerson, newest baseball coach on the staff, he's on the show tomorrow. We're going to talk a little NFL Friday with Patrick McGee, so we got a lot of football and some good baseball stuff coming up. This segment of the show is sponsored by D-Bat Down on Hardy Street. Luke Reynolds and his great staff provide state-of-the-art training for adults, every sport, kids, baseball, and softball. Great pro shop, lots of summer camps to take place in, and just a great place to check out. Grateful to Luke and all the staff down at D-Bat. Glad to have Phil Steele on the show with us today. And Mr. Steele, you know, one of the many things that I really respect and like about your magazine is that you cover all the schools. You don't just cover the money conferences, the schools with all the big high-paid now, in my view, are professional players. You cover the smaller schools, the Southern Misses, the Wichita States, the Louisiana Monroes of the world. And what keeps you interested in all of those schools in a time where it seems more and more media only cares about the big money schools?
Yeah, well, I tell you, I'm a college football fan, and I get excited watching a Tuesday Sun Belt game, or a Tuesday or a Wednesday CUSA, or a Thursday MAC game as anybody else. I even enjoy watching FCS games. In fact, we actually do. I don't write the FCS magazine myself. My staff writes the FCS magazine, but we have 2 full pages on every FCS team available on philsteele.com as well. Yeah, as long as it's football, I love it, and I love the traditions of the group of 6 teams as well. It's just a labor of love. Now, don't ask me about any other sport. You say NBA basketball, I can say LeBron James. I couldn't tell you another player. I don't know anything about baseball. I don't even watch the NFL anymore. I just focus on college football. That's all I do 365 days of the year.
Well, it's basically becoming the NFL. So I mean,
yeah, college football. We were gonna advocate to you while you're on our show today that you start a baseball magazine.
Well, that's not going to happen. My daughter is a hockey fan. She'd like to start a hockey magazine, but I don't think that's going to happen either.
Phil, when you look at the teams in the Sun Belt, one of these other big conferences comes calling. Who's the first team in the Sun Belt that gets snatched up by a bigger conference in your view?
It's pretty much, I think it's pretty even across the board. It's whoever the star players are. You look at I believe the American Conference put out a thing that 72% of their first or second team players got bought through the portal. So it's tough to lose players like that. If you develop a star, no matter which team it is, they're going to come and grab them. No,
what I meant was which universities that are in the Sun Belt would get poached by a Big 12 or like
realignment purposes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If the Big 12 is going to grab one of the Sun Belt teams?
Or any conference.
Yeah, any conference. Like Texas State went to the Pac-12. Who would be the next Sun Belt team to go, in your view, to any other of the big conferences?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
No worries.
I'm going to have to say James Madison, naturally, because they've got the brand name. They made the big step up from FCS to FBS and have been very successful in doing that. So I think they would be the one that would be right at the top to jump in there. I'm trying to think who would be next. I'd have an eye on App State as well. And then Marshall's located where they could fit into a conference, being in West Virginia.
Yep. 2 teams that I think Southern Miss fans are also equally interested in. Both are in the AAC this year, Phil, and I wanted to get your outlook on both of them. First, Tulane and former Southern Miss head coach Will Hall, and then Memphis and former Southern Miss head coach Charles Huff. What do you think about those 2 squads? And obviously Southern Miss will see Tulane at the end of September.
Yeah, and I think Will Hall steps into a pretty good situation. This is a team that's been to 4 straight conference championships. He, of course, has familiarity with Tulane, familiarity with the players, so it's not like he's completely new taking it over. They have 68 returning players from last year. Only brought in 21 players in the portal, so they're not a portal-heavy team. I think that's an advantage. And one thing that I discussed with the coaches, I tried to find out, hey, who's got the most NIL money in the league? Everybody pretty much says Tulane's up there at the upper part of the American Conference in NIL money, which means you can get the better recruits. I like both their quarterbacks, and Chris Germillion and Caden Samanza. both have starting experience. Chris at Houston and Zamanza at Ball State. Good talent throughout the lineup due to the NIL and the retention. And they actually have 5 units that rank in my top units in the front of the magazine, which is pretty good for a group of 6 team. So overall, I think Tulane remains a contender in the American Conference. Now, Charles Huff, as you know, took a bunch with him to Memphis, and that's going to help. But I don't think it's going to have as good an impact. I think there's a step up in the level of competition here. The American's a tough conference to get. Memphis did lose a lot because Silverfield took a bunch of his players to Arkansas with him. There are 71 new players on the Memphis roster. And unlike last year, he doesn't bring in his quarterback with him in Braylon Braxton. He's got to find one. I do think he's got 2 quarterback options in Marcus Stokes and Aaron Noland. Aaron Noland, of course, an Ohio State recruit. Stokes was very highly rated coming out of high school and did well at West Florida. So he's got talent to work with, but I think when you look at the rest of the American Conference, I only have Memphis coming in 6th this year. I think they're going to take a little step back due to the fact they're number 123 on my experience chart.
Well, I'm sure Charles Huff will be looking for other jobs regardless of how they finish. I wanted to ask you about the 2 schools up north because those also might be of interest to our listeners, and that obviously is Ole Miss, who returns several key players to that roster, and then obviously Mississippi State. So what is your outlook on both of those schools?
Yeah, I think Pete Golding, of the new head coaches in the SEC, fares the best because he knows the roster, of course, coached the team in the playoff and came within 1 play of getting to the national title game. And he returns a guy in Trinidad Chambliss, a quarterback who's dynamic in the playoffs, and Kewan Lacey, a first-team All-American running back. Also, the offensive line looks solid. Defensively, remember they had that great defensive line 2 years ago, and it took a step back last year. They could be back to being just as talented on the defensive line, led by Perkins at the jack linebacker spot, Will Elkels inside. Both those guys are NFL prospects. They probably have a better defense than last year. Now, Ole Miss does play after the LSU game. A few Ole Miss fans might remember they're playing LSU on the 19th. But if they come off that game, I think there's going to be a letdown. The very next week, they go into the Swamp and play Florida. So that's one of those games I have circled. They also have to play at Texas and at Oklahoma. Yeah. But I think they're an SEC contender.
And
for
get Georgia.
Mississippi State, they're making strides. I think they are a better team, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching Kamario Taylor this year. If he gets the full grasp of the offense, he's got Fluff Bothwell back at the running back position. They do have to remake their offensive line, which concerns me a little bit, and they still had some ground to make up with the rest of the SEC. But I think they benefited from the fact they got to they didn't earn a bowl game, but they got to a bowl game, so they got those extra bowl practices. That'll help them. And maybe this year is the year they finally get to the part of getting back to that 6-win total and actually earning a bowl game.
It's remarkable to me that you just know all of this off the top of your head. I mean, I could just name a random team such as like Arizona State, and you could probably do the same thing that you're doing with all these teams. It's remarkable. One final question for me. Obviously, Indiana, stormed into the college football world, came out of the NIL, won the national championship. And I'm not saying that you're picking another team to necessarily win the national title, but who is the next team in your mind that's Indiana-like? They could come out of kind of nowhere with a good NIL budget, with a good coach, and kind of replicate similar things that Indiana has done.
That's going to be tough. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to do that. I mean, what Signetti did was just pure remarkable. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to take that magic step up and make that type of transition. I'll tell you this year, one team I'm high on that's low on everybody else's list, but it's not like that at all. It's Alabama, and they're picked 6th in the SEC this year. I actually think they're going to be a surprise team. I think they make the playoff. I know they were picked 6th in the SEC, but everybody's down on them because they got blown out twice in the postseason last year by Georgia and Indiana. They couldn't run the ball and they lose their quarterback. But it's DeBoer's 3rd year. This guy is something like 20-6 against ranked teams. He's got great talent throughout. And when I set up the schedule, I think Alabama, despite being picked 6th in the SEC, makes the playoff. But I don't think we're going to see what happened at Indiana. The unfortunate thing for most head coaches out there is everybody wants to be the next Indiana. They say, hey, it's Indiana can get there, why can't we? And it makes it tough on the head coaches.
Well, Mr. Steele, it's been a great pleasure having you on our show today. I'm sorry we're out of time, but we're very grateful to you for your time. And look, we have great respect for the work you do. If you decide to start that baseball magazine, break the news on our show, would you, Mr. Steele?
I'll have to have one of you guys write it because I know nothing about the sport. But do remember the magazine available. Barnes & Noble and Books A Million are the only two brick-and-mortar stores to go get it, or philsteele.com.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. We're really appreciative of you coming on.
All right, a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Phil Steele, everybody, from College Football Preview. Good work, Dima Mixon.
He just knows all that off the top of his head.
Amazing, isn't it?
I'm sure I could have asked about Delaware, and he would have had the same answer.
He probably even knows about Iowa State. Does anybody really?
Does anybody really care? No, he does.
Big news from Robinson Electric Supply in Laurel. We've moved. You'll now find us directly behind our old building, right by Sawmill Animal Hospital. We're still your trusted electrical distributor, carrying everything from conduit to tape. And don't forget our full line of Milwaukee tools. Whether you're a contractor or a DIY pro, stop by the new Robinson Electric Supply at 1222 West 6th Street and see what's lighting up Laurel. Robinson Electric Supply. New location, same trusted service.
Southern Miss to the top. To the top. You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour.
All right, we want to thank Phil Steele from his great publication for sharing the last 30 minutes with us. This segment of the show is sponsored by Jewel Masters up on the Highway 98 West. That's where you take your old coins, your old gold and silver, walk out with green hard cash. Marty Vick knows more about it, give you a better price than anybody in the Pine Belt. Don't be fooled by all these signs up and down the highway. They're only there because they know Marty's doing the best business when it comes to gold and silver, and we think you'll be very happy with any business you do at Jewel Masters. And I think you're going to be happy with any food you eat at Dickey's Barbecue. I always am. Great fresh food cooked 7 days a week right behind the mall. Great sides, great desserts, got that free soft serve ice cream. Why not go to Dickey's tonight and have yourself a really good meal? All right, we enter the last segment. Dima, you brought Phil Steele in, so I'll give you the opportunity to talk about the news and notes.
The news and notes. No, I just go back to our discussion, and it's just still remarkable to me how he just knows all that off the top of his head. And I'm just going to go back to that. It's just crazy. I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable in college football, but even if I wrote something like that, I would need to go back and say, hang on, let me pull up my Ole Miss page, or hang on, let me pull up. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just a refresher. But, he was just like bang, bang, bang. And that's what I was saying. Like, if I asked him about Delaware or Sacramento State or whoever it is, he'd probably – the same exact thing, know who the quarterback was, the coach was, exactly where their weaknesses were, exactly where their strengths were, just right off the top of his head. So very impressive stuff.
But that's what he does for a living.
Sure.
So you would too, and I'm not diminishing anything you said, but when that's all you do for 7 or 8 months.
But you don't think out of 138 teams?
No, like I said, I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying if you spent 60 hours a week for 7 months. You'd probably know a lot of that stuff too.
Sure.
But it's a lot more difficult today because once a kid got to a team 4 years ago or whenever before the transfer portal started, you could pretty much guarantee they were going to be there. Well, now he's got to do this every year with all these roster changes and things. But when you look at the power poll in the Sun Belt, like I said, he's got James Madison and Old Dominion, the top two teams in the East, which that kind of goes along with the media poll and the coaches poll in the Sun Belt. But he's got Louisiana number 1 in the West, and is
Troy.
Troy. He does have Troy number 2. Okay, but he's got Southern Miss behind
UL Monroe.
Yeah, Louisiana Monroe. He's got the Eagles to pick dead last, finish dead last.
Next to last in the whole country.
And that's different than what the media poll had and the coaches poll. The coaches poll had them 5th, and then the media poll had them 6th. So,
But he does have Marshall 3rd in the East, and that goes to what Bob's been saying all along. Don't sleep on Marshall.
But he did mention that Marshall has those 2 tough road games, which is why I think everybody's still kind of low on them. But I think they could maybe go and win one of those games, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's a really good program and historically good program.
And I kind of baited him a little bit on that question as to which school would be the next school to be poached, because I think we all kind of agree that James Madison would be the ones that other conferences would target.
Well, we appreciate him coming on the show. We're going to do an NFL preview Friday, but I wanted to share this quick story with y'all. I read this last night. Is it Sherrod Sanders, Deion Sanders' son? Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. Comes out of the practice building a week or so ago. He's got a flat tire. Young lady who works in the office there helps him change the flat tire, right, before she goes home. He shows back up the next day with a brand new SUV as a gift to her for helping him change the flat tire. Now, when I hear stuff like that, I think that's really cool. I'm
Well, it's definitely God's way of telling you you're making too much money.
But that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yes, when some flowers or candies would certainly have been sufficient.
Buys her an SUV.
Yeah, not
so
bad.
So if I ever see him on the side of the road, I'm damn sure changing his tire.
Not bad. And that guy plays for
Todd Monken.
Yeah. So maybe that's coming down from the top.
You think that's gonna be Monken's quarterback?
Boy, that's a good question, Bob. I don't think so. No. I don't think so. But I'll tell you what I do know is Todd Monken's going to be successful in the NFL. A lot of people thought that he was the 3rd or 4th choice for Cleveland, and that might have been the case. We don't know the inner workings of the Browns. Buddy. But I'm telling you, that guy...
He's a coach.
He really is, and I think he's exactly what Cleveland
Wouldn't
needs.
That be something to see Todd Monken take the Browns back to glory?
The Browns have never been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
have never been to a Super Bowl. Right. So, I mean, even if they were to get there once.
So they've won as many Super Bowls as the Bengals.
Yeah, real funny, Demon.
Hey, day 2 of practice in Cincinnati, and Joe Burrows has not suffered a season.
Oh, really? Was that confirmed?
Yes,
Did we have the SuperTalk investigative team on that?
That has been confirmed.
Well, the bubble wrap that they have him put in, that certainly helps.
It's like, is he even moving, or does he just walk out there, show his face, talk to the media, and leave?
I've talked to several Bengal fans, and they've got the over-under on what game he gets hurt at 3.5. But, not a bad job if you can make $65 million and play 3 games a year.
Not a bad job at all, is it? All right, Dustin Dickerson. I guess we have to start saying Coach Dickerson?
More baseball tomorrow.
More baseball. Who would have thought, right? Dustin Dickerson on the show tomorrow. Blake Anderson on the show Thursday. Patrick McGee on the show Friday. And soccer.
Man.
We're kicking off soccer Friday.
What a show this Eagle Hour is.
I'm telling you. Now if they only had good hosts. Southern Miss.
And some listeners.
Southern Miss, Kelly.
To the top.
Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. I want to fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an eagle till I'm free. I go through the revolution.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.